Are you ready to be unleashed and unstoppable?
Are you ready to experience a breakthrough and step into your next level of leadership?
Living a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms, unapologetically.
This podcast is for discovering how to play big, how to be unleashed and unstoppable.
Through wiring inner success at the source as you step into your full potential as a wildly ambitious leader.
We are
Alexanne Carter and
Carol Register. We are certified Master Neurocoaches and the founders of Unleashed and Unstoppable You.
We're best known for being confidence-boosting, neurohacking, productivity, and wealth experts.
And for high-achieving leaders, visionaries, and entrepreneurs.
Now let's be unleashed and unstoppable.
Hey, how are you doing? Alex and I are here to lean into and talk about the tree of beliefs that you may have. And I can't wait till she shares her story about the tree of beliefs and the river of misery, as James Whitmore puts it. And we're going to go to the source. We're going to go to the root, because what we do in neuroscience is not surface level work. It's not shallow work. We're actually going into the source of the brain, into the neural networks, in the rewiring process. And you can do this too. We're excited to bring this to you. So Alex, tell us about the tree of beliefs.
Well, Carol, we both know that at the depth of the tree beliefs, like our belief system, it really involves like three things, right? It really involves like being loved and accepted, being worthy enough, and like feeling safe and secure. But we don't walk around being like, I don't feel enough. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel safe. I mean, sometimes you might feel the safety piece, but generally speaking, these are not, it takes us, the work that we do, like how we walk our clients through something called the step door model, which we will dive into in a later episode. Like there's a process that we take our clients through to get underneath, to understand, okay, that'll then lead us to, these three, the roots of your belief system. So Carol and I decided to name it the tree of beliefs. And we think about beliefs, it's important to know, like it could be positive beliefs. It could be negative beliefs, right? It's the internal dialogue. It could be the monkey brain. But where did this all stem from, right? Like we talk about source space, we talk about stem. So imagine you have 3 seeds to plant, right? So we think about the 3 seeds as the being loved, being worthy, feeling safe. Those get planted. And then through water and sunshine and rain and weather, these seeds then grow into a tree. And your tree grows branches, and from the branches there's leaves. And a lot of times what you're going to be able to notice is maybe what's the leaf, like that's a leaf of belief that you might notice, right, Carol, we talked on our first episode about the belief around needing to work hard to be successful. So you might be aware of that, right? But where does this whole needing to work hard to be successful kind of stem from, right? So then you can kind of go underneath it. But I think it's really important that when we know that we operate from these three roots of being loved, being accepted, being worthy, being enough, being safe and secure, we understand that, it helps us understand a little bit more of like why we believe certain things, right? Why we take certain actions and make certain decisions that then lead to the results that we create. And, Carol and I, we actually got into a discussion earlier, a few days back, and we were actually talking about this safe and secure, right? Like needing to have a safety net. Now, Carol and I, we're not walking around feeling like we need a safety net. We need a safety net. It was in our dialogue and in discussion as we peeled back the layers, right? Like going through the tree, right? From the leaf to the twig, to the stem, to the branch, to the root, that we were able to get all the way through back to the root, where we realized, that we're making certain decisions, taking certain actions, and creating certain results based on this story around security.
I love this. And the tree is such a great analogy. And it leans into what you were saying about the beliefs that we have are both positive and negative. And they come from our childhoods primarily. And the important thing about that is, even if you had a fantastic childhood, you were absorbing everything all around you. And then your brain is doing its job to protect that, right? So we're following the path of, maybe you're over here in this leaf of, I don't want to be working so hard all the time. Everything is always hard. Why is it too hard? What you're going to be following that is, where does that go back? All the way through the twig, the branch, the core of the tree, to the roots. And the thing that we're really focusing in on here is helping you to understand exactly what your brain is saying to you as you learn to go back to the source. And those 3 roots are so powerful and important. They are, am I loved? Am I lovable? Am I worthy? Which can also be enough, valuable, treasured, deserving. All of those things fall under that. And am I safe? Right? And you want to know about certainty and security. And so learning what those roots are can really help us get to the essence and the source-based essence, using the language that our brain uses of what we get to rewire.
Well, and what we often see too, especially, if you're a high performer, is when you get in these loops of procrastination, right? Or you get stumped on this perfectionism. A lot of this is going to, if we uncover what's underneath that, it's related to, do you feel worthy enough, right? Do you feel worthy enough? I mean, I know myself, that happened, I think it was earlier today when, an opportunity was presented to me and I got super excited, right, in the moment. And then as soon as I walked away, I could hear the internal chatter of I call it the comparisonitis, right? Where you start to think, well, am I good enough? Right? And you start to compare yourself. And this imposter syndrome, and we are gonna do an episode just on imposter syndrome in a couple episodes. But it's fascinating, right? How your brain just naturally and automatically leads to certain thoughts and certain beliefs. And so it's being able to have the tools to, first of all, just identify. You're like, oh, interesting. Okay, that came up. And then having a process to really walk your brain through, just identifying, okay, that came up, and then getting curious around, is that belief really true? Right. And then, I know that we talked earlier, we'll talk about more finding evidence that belief's not true, and that you are good enough, right? And that you are worthy, and that you are safe, and you are secure. But this is what's important to see, that your brain has experienced things that's going to sort of tell a story. And because your brain is wired to keeping the safe and familiar, your brain's always going to go back to what it knows. And we naturally have this negativity bias, and our brains just naturally always tend to just go to the negative side, right? I don't know if you've heard this, Carol, you can do 99 things great, and yet you're always going to focus on the one thing that you didn't do great. It's just the way your brain just tends to focus on that. And so it's really having certain tools to be able to identify that. Last episode, we talked about being able to interrupt patterns. So noticing that pattern or that thought coming through, and then interrupting it, and then showing evidence that, wait a second, that's not true. I have evidence that, I am the best selection, or I am the best fit for this role, or I am the best fit for this thing coming up, right? To stand in your own worthiness and your own value that you do bring.
Yeah, there's so many ways that these roots display in our limitations, in our limiting beliefs that stand as limitations for us. And so, you're talking about, where are you settling? Where are you holding back? Where are you playing small? And looking at what our brains are saying to us is so powerful and important in understanding exactly what to shift, what to change. Because what Alex's brain says to her, what my brain says to me, is not necessarily the same as what your brain says to you. And it's one of our exciting things we get to do as coaches is hear a lot of language from our clients that is different than what we're saying, yet to be able to recognize that as, oh, this is a root. This person does not feel any certainty. They're not feeling safe. This person is not feeling like they were ever loved or that they're lovable. And it's super interesting to see how these roots tie together. And we may have limiting beliefs that can actually be a part of two of these. And it's exciting to know, though, that it's really simple. I think that's the bottom line. It's simple. It's about what your language is, your brain is saying to you, and getting back to the source to really do the deep work. And like we said last episode, Alex and I use this work every single day. This is not about Shangri-La, right? It's not creating some false reality that we control every and all things. However, maybe we do, right? So I'm excited to invite you to look at what's coming up for you in terms of limiting beliefs. And we will be diving into ways to uncover our limiting beliefs when they show up most. And Alex, I know you just touched on that a little bit. And so that we can get to that life that we want to create and walking in our purpose, right? With the passion that we were wired to have. We're creative beings and we get to create, right?
And I know we speak a lot about like beliefs and a lot of the internal dialogue. And I will say when I first started doing this work, I actually was seeing, so prior to becoming, a Master Certified Neurocoach and diving into this neurocoaching and understanding their neuroscience, I had, I shared on our first episode, I just experienced a burnout. So I was seeing therapists and psychiatrists to understand like what was the cause of it. And it became because of the thoughts that were going on. But what was happening, especially for those of you out there that maybe, experience anxiety, sometimes what you'll actually notice that you'll experience something before necessarily you'll realize the thought. So if you happen to notice like you're experiencing like a bodily feeling, right? Like, so maybe tightness in the chest, maybe you're getting a headache, maybe you're starting to feel overwhelmed, maybe you're getting a stomach ache, maybe you're starting to feel tired. Like that's another opportunity to just get curious around how you're feeling and then see like, did something happen in the moment like that had that anxiety maybe come on, or that tightness, or just that feeling of overwhelm flush over you, and then get curious to uncover maybe what that thought was. Because I remember when I started doing this work, that was part of what it was. It was like, I wasn't aware of the thought. I was aware of like the emotion, and our thoughts combined with our emotions do create those beliefs. And so we do sometimes go up a little bit like at another level of thinking, what was the thing that you were working on, or how were you feeling? Right. So some of us can get right to the thought, and having done this work for a while, I think it's a little bit easier. But when you're getting started and you haven't maybe, like, it's not that you're probably not aware of your thoughts, but you're not really sitting there paying attention to what's going on, but you are able to feel it oftentimes in your body. And so being aware of yes, how you're feeling when you're doing certain things, when you're having certain conversations about certain topics, when you're about to take actions and make decisions, that's a great place to get curious. And I think, Carol, we talked about giving some action steps. And I think that is something that it's the curiosity. I think that's where a lot of this starts, is just being curious. I know that myself, I had a journal and I would write down like how I was feeling, and just, I know last time we talked about the patterns, like that's kind of where you can kind of get started with this, is just having a journal, getting curious, leaning into where am I feeling uncomfortable? Maybe, it's decisions that underneath the root are leading to the safety, the being worthy and being loved, but just kind of just paying attention to your day-to-day. And especially as someone who is, getting to that next level, right? probably putting yourself in situations where you're outside of your comfort zone, you're going to experience more of that resistance. And that's a great place to get started, or to take action on something that makes you feel uncomfortable, because it's when you get uncomfortable that you're actually able to connect with more of what's going on inside of you.
Yeah, I think we should do a whole episode on those factors that are ways that we can uncover our ants. And I want to touch on something you said that was so valuable and relevant, and ask you, are you experiencing thoughts that are limiting, the voices in your head? As Alex said, the feelings, and she also brought up the physical. Or are you feeling it physically? Your shoulders and neck tight? Or do you have a knot in your stomach? Does your back ache? Just getting curious is so powerful, right? A lot of times we've been living our lives in judgment of ourselves. And we've been in certain cultures, just buck up, suck it up, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, get over it, move on. And that doesn't work, because we do actually absorb things into our bodies. We absorb the thoughts that happen into ourselves, right? And so
the guilt is another one. I feel like we often can put feeling to when we feel guilty. So those really those feelings of like what's going on in your body will support you, especially if you were asked to suppress your feelings, right? As kids and things like that. So it's your body has a great way of being able to communicate things to you. And so it's that being curious and embodying the curiosity.
Have you ever felt like, have you ever been told, you were talking on not being able to speak up or have a voice, or being told to suppress your emotions as a child. And have you ever been told, oh, everybody else has it worse than you. You've got it so great. And then not being validated in what you are experiencing. And so this is super exciting. And the brain is our headquarters, right? It's the headquarters. It connects to the gut brain. There's a gut brain. There's a heart brain. A lot of our neurochemicals are actually made in our guts. And we actually have neurons and short and long-term memory in our hearts, right? And so we're going to dive deeper into this with you, with talking about the process of thought to emotion to belief, and being able to look at the root of what you're experiencing. And along with guilt, I will add in shame as well. Shame is a very deep level of guilt. And of course, Brené Brown is such a beautiful expert in that field. These are things that we can shift in our lives and transform. Healing is possible. I want you to know that from personal experience, and Alex can speak into that as well. And from what we see in our clients each and every day of our lives. So thank you, Alex. I love the tree. Look at the tree of beliefs, and journal, get curious, and, releasing the guilt happens when you get curious. Right.
And I could say, because we invited last time to do some journaling. So maybe if you haven't grabbed a notebook that, you'd like to dedicate to this, we definitely invite you to get a notebook and get curious, get connected to your thoughts and your feelings, and, even maybe draw out the tree in your book. And we want to thank you for tuning into another episode. And of course, hit the follow us and subscribe button below, and also connect with us on socials. We'll have all the links in the show notes. So the three roots, right? Really the three roots to it all is about being loved, being accepted, being worthy and enough, being safe and secure. And these three roots really ultimately lead to the decisions that you're making, the action that you're taking, and then the results that you are creating. So
yeah, that's right. Okay. I can't wait to see you guys next time. And Alex and I are both excited to speak with you. Yeah.
bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review, and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.